Hello, you're watching ChannelOne TV. My name is Charles Owusu-Kumin. Today is 1st of July 2024. Exactly 64 years, Ghana became a republic. To commemorate this day, the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College is organizing a lecture on how to sustain Ghana's democratic control over the military. Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwul is chairman of the event and is expected to speak. Permit us to break into regular programming and bring you this live coverage of the lecture.
Please be seated. Good afternoon again, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Before I mounted the stage, I was sent to a room and warned that the protocol order I would give would be what everybody will rest on. So I should be careful I get it right. So those of you at the top, please be praying for me so that when I get it once, everybody else will follow in that order. So here goes. Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice as by law established, the Minister for Defense, our distinguished members of Parliament, members of the Council of State, our venerated service chiefs, excellencies and members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Did I get it right? Please put your hands together. Welcome all of you to this very innovative Republic Day lecture, which brings the very best of military training and research and civil society advocacy live on television to look at the reflections on the democratic control over the military, a way forward for sustainability, happening live here at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College in Accra, Ghana. This program is a collaboration between one of Ghana's foremost social action groups, the One Ghana Movement, and of course, the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, a lecture which hopefully will become an annual event to buttress the collaboration between these two institutions. We are privileged to be hosted by the commandant of the college, and it is my unique honor to welcome Major General Matthew Essien to bring us a welcome address and also introduce our chairman for the program. Please put your hands together for our commandant as he comes to address us.
Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, the Minister for Defense, distinguished invited guests, I want to crave your indulgence to stand on the existing protocols that has been well established to give my opening remarks. But before I get to my opening remarks, I think it is appropriate for me to introduce the chairman first, and then I'll get onto my opening remarks. It is an honor and privilege this afternoon to introduce the esteemed chairperson for today's lecture. The chairperson for today's lecture is no other person than our own Minister, Honorable Dominic Nitiwul, the Minister for Defense of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable Nitiwul has demonstrated over the period an unwavering commitment and dedication to the defense and security of our nation, and his leadership has been instrumental in ensuring the safety and well-being of our citizens. As a seasoned leader and minister and a staunch advocate for national security, Honorable Nitiwul's insight and expertise are invaluable, and we are truly fortunate to have him here with us today. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to the Honorable Minister as we eagerly anticipate his closing address on today's activity. Honorable, thank you very much for accepting. Now to my remarks. It is with great pleasure and honor that I stand before you today to welcome you to the inaugural public lecture on the topic, and I quote, "Reflections on the democratic control of the military, a way forward for sustainability," unquote. In a world marked by diverse challenges and ever-evolving security dynamics, the relationship between the military and the democratic governance of a nation holds paramount significance. The military, as an institution entrusted with the very vital responsibility of safeguarding the sovereignty and security of a nation, must operate within the framework of democratic principles and under civil control. The theme for today's lecture, Reflections on the Democratic Control of the Military, underscores the critical importance of ensuring that the military remains subordinate to civilian authority, adheres to the rule of law, and upholds human rights. By reflecting on this essential aspect of governance, we aim to explore ways in which democratic oversight of the military can be strengthened and sustained for the greater good of our nation and its people. The path to sustainable democratic control of the military is not without its challenges. It requires a delicate balance between the need for a strong and capable force and the imperative of ensuring that it remains accountable to the democratic institutions of the state. It necessitates a culture of transparency, accountability, and then the respect for the rule of law within the military establishment. As we gather here today to engage in dialogue and reflections on this crucial issue, let us remember that the ultimate goal is to build a military that is not only effective in its primary mission of defending the nation, but also operates in harmony with the values of principles of democracy. It is through such a symbiotic relationship that we can truly achieve sustainable security and peace for our nation. Through this public lecture series, we aim to create a space for dialogue, learning, and exchange of ideas that transcends disciplinary boundaries and inspire creative thinking. By harnessing the collective wisdom and the expertise of our speakers, faculty members, students, and guests, we hope to ignite a passion of inquiry and a commitment to excellence in the field of defense and security studies. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all our distinguished speakers for graciously agreeing to come and share their knowledge and insight with us today. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to our organizing committee, sponsors, volunteers, and everyone who has contributed to making this event a reality. I want to thank One Ghana movement for partnering the college in organizing this event. We have established an enduring working relationship that will bring enormous benefits to our people. May today's lecture inspire us all to work together towards a future where the democratic control of the military is robust, accountable, and enduring. Thank you, and I wish you all a productive and enlightening session ahead. Once again, welcome to this inaugural lecture. Thank you very much.
Please put your hands together one more time for our commandant. For those of you viewing us live on ChannelOne television, we are here at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College in Accra, bringing you the Republic Day lecture on the theme Reflections on the Democratic Control over the Military, a Way Forward for Sustainability. We just heard from our Commandant, Major General Matthew Essien, who welcomed us and introduced our chairperson, who is the Minister for Defense. The program is in 3 parts. We are going to have a lecture by our principal speaker, the Honorable Francis Poku, which lecture will be followed by what we have coined as review lectures or review discussions from 2 very important speakers who I'll introduce in due course. After this, I will sit down with the 3 for a brief panel discussion, and then we'll open the floor for some questions to wrap the issues up. Without wasting further time, I'd like to give an abridged introduction of our very distinguished keynote speaker. Honorable Francis Poku is an octogenarian, and his contemporaries are His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of Ghana, and the late Professor J.E.A. Mills. Other prominent colleagues include the late Professor Kwesi Botwe, Dr. Kojo Afari-Jan, and the late Justice Professor Modibo Okran, as well as the late Amwaku Tufo and Major Osahene Boache Jan. Our distinguished speaker attended Opokuwari School between 1957 and 1963. He proceeded to the University of Ghana and graduated in 1967 with a bachelor's degree in French with Latin as a subsidiary. He holds a postgraduate diploma in law from the University of Westminster in London, and has to his credit professional certificates in security management from prestigious institutions in the United Kingdom, US, Russia, Germany, and France. Very, very egalitarian. He began his career after graduation in 1967 with what was called the Special Branch of the Ghana Police Service. His work experience transcends over 7 political and military regimes in Ghana, having served, among others, with the NLC, the Progress Party, the NRC, the SMC, the AFRC, the PNP, and finally, the New Patriotic Party. As Minister for National Security and Coordinator of National Security, our distinguished speaker promoted defense and security policies that generated public confidence in the then Kufuor-led administration and the regime's ability to achieve public safety and long-term stability. These policies were aimed at sustaining the principles underlying the 1992 Constitution based on the rule of law. And indeed, this republic's longevity can be attested to some of the things he did in that position. He's won a number of awards, including the covetous National Award, the Order of the Volta Civilian Division for his contribution to the peace and stability of Ghana, and for the peace processes in Liberia, Ivory Coast, and Togo between 1985 and 1989. He worked at the United Kingdom, Inland Revenue, and Royal Mail. His work experience also took him to various parts of the world. Was chief executive of London-based Catholic Light, a renowned think tank. Also worked as executive officer, CEO of the Africa Reconcile, a London-based security consultancy. He's a religious man and a devout Catholic. His work has also taken him into the corridors of mystical theology, which is really the title of a book he wrote, The Mystery and Ways of Divine Mercy, published in the UK in 2013 and launched at the Westminster Cathedral. The book is still being promoted by Amazon. He's a trustee of Jesus and Mary School and the founder of the Frank Bella Foundation, a charity that supports the youth and vulnerable groups. Our distinguished speaker is also a patron of Pax Romana, comprising Catholic groups on university campuses. He actively supports the National Catholic Secretariat initiatives in peace building. Finally, he served as a facilitator for postgraduate programs on national security at the University of Ghana and the University for Professional Studies, Accra. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests at the Republic Day lecture, I am happy to announce and give to you our speaker for the day, the Honorable Francis Poku. Please put your hands together as we receive our speaker.
I suppose he's putting on. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand by the existing protocol. This forum is very dear to my heart because the opening up of the military to the world of democracies was my own cherished initiative when I was the Minister for National Security. I think the ministry is going through a transformation, and we want to see a lot of it. We have a different military, quite different from the time of those military days, and I'm happy to see my good friend, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, who was in my custody along the line, and turned out to be a family doctor. So wonders can happen, and sometimes we do interactions that shock people. And one of the secrets is that some of the interesting advice I got from my old friend, Captain Kojo Chekata. And the advice he gave me was, do not be provoked. And when you say don't be provoked, you see what I mean. So, this must be a time for serious reflection. Very, very serious. Because let me be very honest, the people of Ghana are looking up to us to up our game, as we say. There is a gradual loss of confidence in democratic rule, and we have to say it. So I believe that 2025 must be a beginning for this country. Because given the stakes, and I'm saying it because I was in charge of Accra security before Jerry Rawlings, and in fact, the former IGP, Mr. Namfuri, and I were interrogating Rawlings at the time of the 79 coup. And 3 years before, we had predicted a revolution, clearly. And it was so powerful that former head of state, Daniel Champon, was going to start a transitional government and end the military rule. But Ghana, as you know, advisors came in, and that was the beginning of the end. And I can assure you, if that advice had been heeded, Ghana would have been a different country by now. But then after that, because we were going through a period of what you call anocracy, when you have a strong person who occupies the throne for a very long time, strong in the sense that he knows how to get rid of the rules. So when he's not there, all kinds of things open up. Anger and all the factionalism come up again, and governments don't survive. And so after Nkrumah's coup was the beginning of an anocracy, and we did not see stability. Governments did not last for more than 27 months until the 1992 Constitution. So this is a test, and I believe we must all respond to this call, that if the face of democracy does not change after 2025, we are going to go through another history. And it must be a collaborative effort. And that is why in this talk, I'm going to look at the Constitution and how we handle constitutions. My advice always is that there are three courts. We have the court of law, where you can wriggle your way out. We have the court of public opinion, and that is what you must watch. The other court, you will not see it until it's too late, the court of God. So you can pass the first test, but the question you ask yourself, do people really believe me? And that is why when I used to go for my presidential briefing, I will just give a summary of the court of public opinion. What you have said, do they believe you really? So we have to send people to do the public reaction reports to point us that what we have said, is it believed? So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm making a safe prediction that the face of democracy must change. It has to change. So in this, I'm going to try and let's reflect. Happily enough, whoever organized this occasion makes it a reflection. So let's reflect, beginning with the preamble of our Constitution. That is not a main body, not part of the body of the law. It stands above the law. It is exterior to human actions, and it is telling us what we can do to be safe in this country. It is very important. In Czech, we call something like catastrophe or sin. When evil doing is going on, it comes out with some catastrophe. And if it is not controlled, then that's the beginning of the end. And as I said, I made this clear prediction. 76. There was one Dr. Gardner. We went to his house, presented the report, and said, this is what we are heading. So no, Ghana, there is Romoja. No, and it happened in our faces. So let us go through some of the issues that we need to meditate on, reflect on, and lay the foundation for proper democracy in this country. If we pretend that we are going to stay with public opinion where you can send commentators and people to defend you, to let people believe, you are just not facing the realities. So 2025, safe prediction, by God's grace, we will get through the 2024, because I am convinced that all the existing political parties believe in democracy. And we can see the process. From all the years even of military rule, the same people who were with the military are the ones who prepared for the exit. And looking at the history at that time, when I returned in 2001, I knew that the process had started long before. It has started. So all the political parties, those in opposition demonstrating against military rule, they are all part of the process. So there should be no room for hatred. But together, if there are threats, let us come together and face a serious problem. Because I am telling you authoritatively, people are losing confidence in democracy. And the instant reaction, with the Ankasoja for cry, it shouldn't be so. Why should they say, knowing what we've been through during military rule, why should people exclaim? And it's not, I don't want to pinpoint to any particular regime. It has been a long process of not being very honest with our constitution, and then also not trying to be controlled by all the injunctions of democracy. So if, can somebody... So in our reflections, we are going first of all to look at, of course, the preamble of the 1992 Constitution. It affirms the foundational values as follows. Because when you go to national security strategies all over the world, they come out clearly with what they believe in. How do we want outsiders to see us? What are our values? Are we happy to be viewed like this? Are you happy as a Ghanaian when you go out? What do you want people to see us like? So, we have to look at the Constitution and the preamble, which affirms the foundational values. Invocation of God. Can you just... Yeah, so the preamble of the Constitution, it affirms the foundational values, our own values. How do we want to be seen? Invocation of God. God who is outside the Constitution but is invoked in the name of the Almighty God. That's the first line. He is out of any of the provisions because he's God the other. He's separate from us. But he is the one who dictates where we are going, for whether we follow the values of what we ourselves have said. And the framers of the Constitution were very smart to invoke God, because that is what unites this country together in terms of values. Pagan religion, Christian religion, Muslim religion. So the framers of the Constitution were very, very, very firm. They knew that this was a point of unity. If we want to advance, that is the only way forward. So it recognizes religion as a unifier of the people. And also it confers sovereignty on the people, whom all appointees are called upon to serve. That's public service. So our stability and development depend on public service. And the president is a public servant. Because when you take public service, it includes the executive and all the other publicly funded departments. So the president is a public servant like us, but he has been put forward as the one who represents our oath before God. And the rest of us, he is to make sure that we are complying with the provisions of the Constitution. And the institutional framework, that is our stability and development, then we have the capacity to serve national needs and respect for democratic governance. Democratic governance, every form of governance must be democratic, complying with the rule of law, accountability, and respect for human rights. So throughout our service as public servants, the military public servants, so they have to be governed by the preamble of our Constitution. And this must be focused because, you see, we don't want to be like Hitler. He said the Constitution is just a scrap of paper. You read it when you are taking the oath, and when you win the election, become president, you go to church or you go to the mosque to thank God. So this is where your authority, your power is coming from. And all the historical antecedents we have learned from history. The fact that we are all gathered here, that means we have learned from history. The same way during the PNDC period, they had learned quietly that we cannot stay like this. And when I came, first time, 2001, I asked the military to come with me to a cabinet meeting. And people thought I was crazy. They went to cabinet to hear my briefing, that these are the people who have ensured a peaceful tradition. So even though it was a new regime, they were fierce as to how we were going to handle them, but they were part and parcel of the peace-building process. Recovery of weapons and all these things in the night, they are the ones who supported us. They gave all the advice we needed. So they ensured the transition. Call it conspiracy of silence. When things are not going on in your group, the same group will be plotting outside to make sure when you are going to go. And these are the realities that have saved this country. At very troublesome times, we have had people from all sides coming to say, hey, the way things are going, and yeah. So we have a responsibility, loyalty to the nation. Loyalty to the nation. Let's get our values right. We want to be proud of who we are as Ghanaians. If that message doesn't come through, we are in serious trouble. Not now. The elections will go well, but let it be a good election, and then we get together and then move the nation forward. Can I have the next step? So, constitutional framework, that is, we go by the Constitution. All the rules of public service, military included, quite clearly defined. Article 57, the president is head of state, is the commander of the armed forces. So, as a commander, he leads in installing the values of the Constitution. Then membership, military, also National Security Council. That is where all the decisions are taken for good governance. The national security is to go around and identify all the things that will lead to the dishonor of this country, that will lead to instability. Because it's not enough to be protected. You know, we call it regime protection. Focus on how safe you are. And after you are safe, you can do the rest. Once there is not going to be any coup, what is your problem? So no, we need more than just protection. When we are safe, it doesn't mean our work is done. We must look forward to see what will be acceptable, that will bring dignity to the nation as a whole. Again, public support for military to deliver their constitutional mandate and to defend the territorial integrity. And then also we have the Constitution that lays out the relationship between the military and government. Quite clearly, military also, they've come a long way. We remember 1979, I was in charge of Accra, and I saw what was happening. The fact that the military has been able to restore discipline to the armed forces, it shows the professionalism of our army. I never believed we will ever come to this. But somehow, they managed it, and they have become an important part of our stability. Okay, next one. Yeah, specific rules again, coming to the same thing, public service. We have armed forces being part of the public sector, bound by all the democratic rules of the foundation, the preamble, everything. See, the president's duty under the Constitution to provide resources. There's no point saying, I'm going to declare war when you don't have even the critical infrastructure to protect yourself. So before there's a policy, there must be consultation. All the responsibilities. If there's flooding, I ask myself, is the military ready now to contain what will happen? And there are a lot of contingency plans. It's not when there's a problem, then you say, go and buy this. No, we must be ready. Are we ready as a country? And sometimes when I sit here, I know what can happen. In terms of earthquake zones, and so many things that can happen. Are we ready? We are fortunate that these sub-regional problems have not spilled over, because I don't know currently, but we have a long way to go. And before the military goes on any form of undertaking, the capability must be well established. And contingency plans is not for today. See, it's for the unknown time when something happens. And when you are doing security assessment, you know all the possibilities, all the scenarios. We don't have adequate contingency plans. We have the drones. If we have rebels going into forest and other things, are we ready? So a proper assessment. But if there's no stability, you cannot look into the long term. So there must be proper stability. Proper stability must be founded on your preparation for the future. Yeah, so military must justify strategic and operational decisions to the president. If there's a problem at Ashama, you have to do the consultation. See, so I know it can be provocative. When I heard of Major Muhammad's case, I asked myself, how did the people survive it? Because I know the normal reaction. So I was very thankful to the military, who was able to go and contain it, because it could easily have spilled out. And I always had respect for the military, but on that day I was shocked. It shows the professionalism that has come back, because I know the reaction that we would have received. So the positive must be looked upon. We are moving forward, but we should never forget the foundation, the values, and our own preamble to the Constitution. our foundation, our strength, our stability, our justice, our everything. Most lawyers, they will jump. Nobody wants to look at the preamble. But for me, that is the foundation. That is our strength. That is our blessing. We have the next. Yes, we continue defend the territorial integrity, and then we have the National Security and Intelligence Agencies Act. Also, that brings together all the various security agencies to do continuous assessment. Continuous. There are events happening every day, and it must be honest assessment. Let us assess, let us communicate, because if we are going to have elections, decisions are taken as to the deployment, it must originate from the Joint Intelligence Committee deciding who should go where. And please, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us not politicize operations. I advise that there must be communication. Communication. This is the reason why we are deploying. There must be good security foundation for the operation, but the military must be accountable to this, first of all, conferring with the Commander-in-Chief, and also the origin of the operation. Is it from Joint Intelligence Committee, or what is it? But again, respect for rule of law, human rights, and accountability. So these are all repeat of the what the military needs in order to be a proper military establishment. Develop contingency plan for disasters, training, professional training all the time, deployment, thinking ahead. If you see that the Accra initiative is collapsing, it's not because it's not good, but what it is that some of the countries are saying, look, we are not expecting anything from ECOWAS, so we better handle our own situation until things improve. We are not going to wait if nothing is coming from the initiative. It's a good move. The intention is good, but the devil is in the detail. So if nothing is happening, some countries are quietly negotiating with the states. So please, practical wisdom must guide us as to sometimes our own needs. And I believe that these ongoing assessments go on all the time. Can we have the next? Now, there is a national security strategy, and I commend the National Security Minister for coming out with that document. It compiles all the security strategies that the agencies have used. Again, I'm very proud that it's cross-agency and cross-regime collaboration. The wonderful law, the national security law, the constitution, all coming from previous government. So this comes also from the evolution that has been going on, that really we need a proper foundation. So there's nothing partisan looking at a good document, because as Ghanaians, that is how things should be done. When something is good, just say it is good. We are all Ghanaians. And that is why I hate saying this regime's project and my project. But is it your own money? So please, this project belonging to a particular regime is wrong. It's a continuation. It's the people of Ghana and their resources. So the president, in the foreword to the national security document, he cautioned against the use of military to serve any political government or be used for political purposes. And this was the president's foreword to that document. It presupposes the military must be beyond control of any political class and reinforce its duties and obligations. The capacity, strengthening the military to defend the country and ward off national security threats. So let's look at the imminent threats to national security. See, we have high alert situations, very high alert. That means we must mobilize. It's an emergency. It's going to destroy the country. So high alert. So under national, if you look at the national security document, these situations are high alert, emergency. We are sounding the alarm that if we don't correct it, the nation is about to sink. And it belongs to tier 1 of the assessment. So let us look at it. This is from the national security strategy. These are the alert signals. If these things are happening, then we are called to mobilize and fight it together as a nation. What are these? We have internal conflict. Of course, currently, Boko is happening, maybe a couple of hotspots. And then we have violent extremism across the border, and there's collaboration, thanks to the noble efforts of the security services. And then we have maritime security. The last time I was somewhere, what I gathered was that the Delta, these Delta people from this is Niger Delta, because our coast was not protected, they will come and take hostages in our territorial waters and take them to bargain as hostages. So maritime security should have been done over the years. And as I said, whatever is not done is not assignable to a particular regime. As a matter of strategy, we have not really addressed our military challenges very well. This is, and we take all the African countries. They have patrols and all the equipment necessary to protect their coastline. But because ours was unprotected, I hope it has been done now, that means they will come and take hostages all over to Nigeria to get their money. Corruption, that is high alert. So people should be mobilized by now to be handling that. So these are tier 1. We have youth unemployment, the employment issue. There must be strategies to try and deal with it. So they require interagency cooperation. And of course, we bring in private sector, because if we are saying it's unemployment, these issues that affect all of us, then definitely we have to think of private sector. And what we have to do is to create the environment for them to assist in our national security strategies. And we'll be saying that even the military, there are initiatives that we can encourage the military to undertake through field engineers as to how they can collaborate in the economic development strategies of this country. So these must all be explored, especially now that the military really is trying to turn a new corner, to try and make them effective and efficient in our national security agenda, development agenda. So this is an area that we need to explore. Now, as I said, we are taking care of ourselves, and African countries are taking care of themselves. You heard the breakup of the AES, because they are seeing that ECOWAS is of no help. ECOWAS was set up, gone were the days before 2015, when they could bully governments into democratic rule. Now ECOWAS is powerless. So that is the problem we are having. We are looking at why government would want to control the military. Because with all what is happening, what is the military thinking? So this is very unfortunate, and it's also the instability that is going on. This destabilization can be very infectious. And all the geopolitical tensions, what is sure is that the Russians and, of course, the Western countries are all trying to have spheres of influence. So there's a warfare going on for them to attract African countries. And if we are not careful, the old Cold War is going to spill out on us. So there is a warfare going on quietly with both the Russians and the Western countries trying to gain the upper hand in the geopolitics of this time. So, but there's a case for democratic control. The president will say, look, I need to keep an eye on the military. And as a pro-development institution. And I was impressed when the Labour Party, before the election, they are trying to come out to convince the public that they are a party of security. So they encourage about 14 military men to retire and be their candidates for this week's election. So what an opportunity that we have so many military men who are doing various courses. Now, this is a resource for the political leaders who are here. It's time for you to encourage some officers to retire so that they can pay attention to your national security strategies and policies. It's very important. So the military are playing their part all over the world, not coming as troublemakers, but coming to make their own contributions, because these are important human capital that we can deploy in our national security policies. Again, history is what also makes some of our leaders fearful of the military. 1966, Nkrumah was going to Hanoi, and troops moved all the way from Daboya, beginning sweeping away others and coming to stage a coup in Accra, leading to the slaughter of Major General Bauer and the loyalists. Unfortunately for them, their equipment had been moved to Shah Hills, so even though a strong unit, they couldn't defend themselves. So that is there. And then, not long after, we had these anocratic situations, which means 67, another coup followed, Arthur's abortive coup. They came from Ho to attack, and Major General Kutuka lost his life. Followed by 1972. Champon was in charge of 1st Brigade. And so what was interesting is that the security reports are pointed out that his appointment was not safe. So some of the opposition members came and lobbied for him So on the day of the coup, they came and asked those people to go and tell their friend to stop what he's doing. It was too late. So 72, so 27 months after the regime, then we had all these SMC. A champion was asked to, interesting enough, he had been fasting, but somehow he was persuaded to come to the castle for a meeting, and he was surrounded and taken to Akosombo. So, palace coup, we said it. So with all these years followed up, again there was a mini anocratic situation. When the champion was overthrown, it led also to a time of instability. Because the problem with coups is that you create divisions within the army. The person you have overthrown may have his allies, and they are waiting to strike back. So look at all the period of instability. And the political class is right maybe to fear the military as using physical force to overthrow government. But as I said, that period really is going away, and I like the focus that is ongoing to transform the military into a national security agenda and development. Why is control important? Again, we repeat, fidelity to the Constitution, the ultimate law of the land, ensure that security of the country and of the people is a collective responsibility. Collective because if one area fails, if the health needs of the country fails, it affects other areas of policy. The Galamsey episode, it didn't start now, it started long ago, but the effects, as we are sitting here now, have we assessed the impact of the Galamsey? Huge impact. So this is an alarm, and I think by now we should have known the impact of the Galamsey. It's a security issue. Security issue doesn't mean protection of government alone. It's a issue that spills over and requires emergency attention. So the old concept of security, where you protect a regime to do what it likes, is gone. Now it's good governance. So that issue is a security issue. Some of our own people who cannot manage dialysis, this is a serious issue which we have to take on board. Again, we don't assign blame to any political party. We may even assign blame to the local community. Many of us, we come from villages, and when things are going wrong, what part do we play? We used to have town development associations. But what is happening? We are unconcerned because we don't stay there even. So please, failures of this nature, security failures affect all of us. And there are actions that the military cannot take. That is strategic actions, strategic decision, declaration of war, conflict handling, which might be subject to consultation. And oversight. What is left there? Parliamentary oversight. And all the political parties are to blame for not fulfilling the obligations under this oversight. Strictly speaking, there must be annual report where the Minister for National Security goes to the parliamentary committee to do an assessment. The strategy normally is for a year. You anticipate what measures you are going to take, and at the end of the year, you go back to enumerate all the achievements, how far you progressed. So, if right in Parliament, all the parties are not taking this provision seriously, then you are also part and parcel of it. See what is going on and how are we remedying the situation. Again, accountability, transparency. Subordination to the military is a sign of weakness. That's a weak government. You mustn't. When there are issues, the military must consult. And we do this through National Security Council, Joint Intelligence Committees, issues that affect the public perception of governance. So share. It might be shared, called stakeholder engagement, because every issue affects other agencies. So there must be stakeholder engagement. And of course, economic prosperity. So let's go to reflection. Again, going back to the framers of the Constitution, why in their wisdom did they enshrine ultimate power, justice, and authority in the Almighty God? Because that is the higher authority. And it's a faith that binds all religions, even pagan religions. So common destiny. The need for introspection, as we are doing now, to look at ourselves and anticipate what is to come. To opt for good governance, national integrity, respect for ourselves as Ghanaians, to be proud to be Ghanaians. So he's asking, you are a civilian, you go to the military, you are about to retire, and you want to hold executive powers again. So military role, we have to focus on peace and security, which we can get. You can enforce the provisions of the Constitution, rule of law. And then ensure that there's technical capability for infrastructure development. Field engineers can play a part. And then be prepared. I'm very happy the military is playing a very important role in the area of organized crime and cyber crimes. I'm ready for national emergencies, skills in aviation security, and drone deployment. This is resourcing. So these are priority areas because we must be ready. We must be ready, and I can assure you we may not be ready given the challenges. We know what other countries are investing in these their national security reactions. They are responding to what is going on. So far, the security agencies are performing well. They have been robust in recognition and responsibilities to the military. They, again, keep reminding about the preamble, the sustainability of this relationship. We can never take everything for granted. There is a period of feast. There is a period of gestation. If we are not careful, we'll be running out of time. So military is becoming a partner in national development. And I'm very pleased that many of you are sponsoring this kind of program. Your presence here is an encouragement to the military in their response to national security challenges. A few recommendations. Need for government to continue to provide resources for modernization of the military. Armed forces should find ways to contribute to youth employment through various initiatives, of course, supported by government. You can engage, support departments and agencies that may try and subcontract projects to you, and set up model. It can be model industries, just model to attract other regions to imitate these projects. So new skills are coming, governance skills, science, technology, and the military. There may come a time that we may have a military armed forces university. So the way is very, very fruitful. And I believe at this pace, it's trying to move away from the use of force to engagement with the mind and the intellect. So thank you very much. God bless you.
Please put your hands together one more time for our guest speaker, the Honorable Francis Poku. He took us all the way up, and then when we were gliding with him, he just dropped the mic at the end like that. How many of you enjoyed that? One more time, please. Thank you so much. So we're still here at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, bringing you the Republic Day lecture. We're live on ChannelOne television. We just heard from our principal lecturer, who really has given us a lot of food for thought. We are going to bring up in turn two, I don't want to call them minor presenters, they are more like discussants, to tease out their own perspectives of the topic for us. And again, I'm going to abridge their introductions so we can gain some time. So the first person is a man who is very comfortable in these areas because he's worked in these parts for many, many years. These days, he is a consultant. Professor Kwesi Ening is a professor of security studies, served as the AU's first expert on counterterrorism in 2021. He was counterterrorism. In 2021, he was senior consultant on the independent project evaluation on support to the Maldives in counterterrorism. And in 2022, he evaluated the EU's counterterrorism interventions in Sri Lanka. He serves on the World Food Programme Security Advisory Board. In March 2023, his article written a year before on African experiences and alternativity in international relations, which theorized about security in international affairs, published volume 98, number 1, with Kweku Danso, won the International Affairs Centenary Prize by Chatham House, UK. Some of his research interests include peacekeeping, hybrid political orders, and security force assistance. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to bring up stage our first discussant, Professor Kwesi Ening. Please put your hands together.
Let me say a very good afternoon to everybody, but also stand on the existing protocols to deliver my lecture. I want to thank Mr. Francis Poku for the honesty with which he has spoken. This is a way of speaking that normally is not appreciated, and I can assure you that for some of us who speak this way, it has always not been easy. But I want to follow up on what he said in terms of three things that he mentioned. First, that we need to up our game. Secondly, that the devil is in the detail. And number three, about the role of Parliament. Let me make a couple of introductory remarks first and foremost. First, a competent, responsible, and effective military is based on an effective, competent, and knowledgeable oversight set of institutions. And I'll be very blunt here, and I'm going to prove it. Quite a number of the oversight institutions have failed to deliver. And when Mr. Poku talks about the threats that we are facing, there are more internal threats than those that emanate from the outside. We don't want to talk about that because it's uncomfortable, and that is not the reality. So the notion of democratic oversight of the security sector, and particularly the military, implies several things. First, that those in power who need to make those decisions over the military as a whole must demonstrate what we call the trinity of A's. First, a grasp of the authority. What does the Constitution say? and what is the remit under the Constitution that these authorities must use. And I like the way that Mr. Poku has gone through the Constitution. The second is the ability. One is to get the position, but the second is, can you deliver? The third is about attitude. So let me speak a little bit about these three defining characteristics. Attitude, I conceptualize as integrity. I conceptualize it as courage and vision. The boldness to engage the military as an institution that is filled with people who are highly educated as much as those who are playing the oversight role. Not only that, attitude and ability must be underpinned by the authority that the Constitution gives. We are increasingly seeing, and I like Mr. Poku's example of a chairman, in which Parliament was fantastically silent. But not only that, there have been lots of instances where Parliament ought to have spoken, but has not. And Mr. Poku mentioned something that we've all taken for granted. The reporting mechanisms that these institutions that play an oversight role must play. Since 1992, Parliament that ought to have requested security institutions to provide annual reports about their performance are not doing so. And I think in preparing to come here today, I looked at the Hansard, and you can see the number of times on the floor of the House there's been a debate about security and about the military. So there's quite a bit of work that we need to do, and I want to thank Mr. Poku that he wants us to up our game. But it's not just about the military. A functional military needs sparring partners who can deliver the goods. So I want to focus also on the management of the military by asking probing questions to clarify some of the critical issues facing our modern armed forces, but also located within a democratic state. From Mr. Poku's presentation, the military and oversight institutions are driven, let me quote him, by a legitimate relationship and a desire to create this relationship. That legitimacy is not something that is given. That is a relationship, and that creates a legitimacy when there is a robust, open, trusting, engaging, dialogic relationship. So for the sake of the conversation, let me raise a couple of questions. How does the military get a voice? Because from my reading of the parliamentary Hansard and from the utterances that are made, one gets the impression that the voice is hardly there. How do we get the military to engage the oversight institutions that takes decisions that affects them? And once more, I think Mr. Poku makes a very good point about what is happening elsewhere. And I think he made some predictions, I think was it in 1975. I have made predictions since 2020, and 5 of them have come true, so I have stopped making predictions. But somewhere in this presentation also, the disturbances in the Sahel and the changing geopolitics on the sub-region have been mentioned. These disturbances haven't come out of the blue. Coup d'etats happen when those who govern democratically think they have a God-given right to take their citizenry for granted and deliberately undermine state institutions and prevent them from delivering the public goods that those institutions must deliver. So in Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, state institutions failed to deliver. But even more disturbingly, and here I want to go back to Mr. Poku and talk about ECOWAS as the entrepreneur for our normative framework about respect for the rule of law, respect for human rights, but more importantly, respect for the democratic ethos about listening to citizens' concerns and the way that you manage the public purse. In Guinea, looting the public purse became part of the political game. In Mali, the political elite looted the state treasury as if it was their private purse. In Burkina Faso, there was no differentiation between the public and the private purse, similar to Niger. What this leads to is that we need to question the nature of the relationship. We need to question what exists between the legislature and the executive, but also that we need to bring our minds around the questions of giving people a voice, not least the military. And I think there are quite different structures. And I think I can see the minister scribbling the Armed Forces Council for one, and then of course, his own parliamentary committee. But we need an engaged, robust conversation behind closed doors. It's not every conversation that must be within the public space. But how must this engagement be crafted? How do we deal with the frustrations that can arise from those who are legally mandated to handle the tools of violence? And I think Mr. Poku captures this as an octogenarian. I think it gives him some leeway to shoot from the hip. But I will try to follow his footsteps. So let me now speak specifically to some of the things that Mr. Poku spoke about. And I want to repeat a few of them. One is about 2025. The second, quote, the people are losing confidence in democracy. But Mr. Poku also tells us about the National Security Strategy document and the Intelligence and Security Services Act 1030 of 2020. Minister, your uniformed men haven't seen this document, and a lot of them haven't read it. That poses a problem. And it's not only the military. Less than 5% of all uniformed people in this country have seen and read this document. So the fantastic preamble to this document, in which we want to project ourselves on the global stage, is not read nor understood by those who need to create the building blocks for Ghana to project itself this way. So the empty rhetoric is fantastic. The detail, as Mr. Poku says, or the devil is in the detail. Here, this is not a two-horned devil that I am talking about. I'm talking about a four-horned devil, meaning that we are in a very bad space. Furthermore, Mr. Poku talks about operations not being politicized. That, I think we all know the answer to. So what are the main threats to our security that the military must look at? Mr. Poku talks about, I think, high threats. These are consistently, they are very fluid and keep on moving and shaping. So today it might be violent extremism, tomorrow it might be about sanitation. But the abiding and consistent threat to this country is corruption. We've become so corrupt that that is the glue that binds this nation. And I think for the military, there needs to be this consistent analysis and threat assessment about what the net impact of corruption is, what are the networks, what are the interdependencies and interrelationships, and how and what are the tools for response. Part of Ghana's stability, Mr. Poku frames it as a question. Are we ready as a nation? What is the way to go in preventing a spillover of anarchy? And once more, I want to come back to our analytical capacity of bringing what we see as the threat together, but even more importantly, the way that analysis and the conclusions are subjected to those who need to make the final decision for the military to act. So one is to do the analysis.
Imagine a one-stop shopping experience for all things made in Ghana at the This Is Ghana Exhibition 2024.
I think it's giving us exposure to help other people know that there is made in Ghana coffee.
I find it very interesting. This is my first time coming on board, but so far it's been good.
We can also contribute our quota in order to support some of these businesses.
Let's partner with you. Let's do this and then see how we can best give exposure to our customers.
Get ready to explore the remarkable fair to showcase the rich diversity, talent,
and the Alliance of Sahel States. ECOWAS's behavior hasn't come overnight. It's taken a long time of a separation of what the Commission does and perceives of itself and what the narrative of an ECOWAS of the people really represents on the ground. So ECOWAS speaks with one voice, and we the people think of something else. Mr. Poku has something to say about the Accra Initiative. The Accra Initiative once more flies in the face of the shared norms and values within the ECOWAS framework. So we have X number of countries that are seeking to share intelligence and to undertake some joint operations. But 5 or 4 of those member countries have flouted ECOWAS's normative rules. And therein lies Mr. Poku's argument about the efficacy and usefulness of ECOWAS. Now, we have Accra Initiative. I think, Minister, probably you were there last week, about this special force of 5,000 troops, or maybe half of that. Now, that raises a very fundamental point. You cannot fund Accra Initiative. You cannot fund your other structures. But we are talking about creating a new structure. Now, the question is, what is the role of our partners sometimes in pushing us in making some of these decisions? Is this decision to create a force, Mr. Poku, that responds to coupism, something that we have decided amongst ourselves? Because the drive to respond is when the military A doesn't have a voice. B, when the misuse and theft of public resources becomes so blatant that in quite a number of military barracks across this sub-region, there are almost no roofs, their boots are torn, their clothing of suspicious quality, their salaries is like a lottery as to when it comes. And therefore, when the political class at the same time says, oh, but there's a coup d'etat in Niger, let us go and intervene, I think that raises a fundamental point or concern among the troops that we want to send. And when those who lead also say, oh, we are going to intervene based on the ECOWAS standby force. The logistics base is in Sierra Leone. I can see my senior brother MP Dankso smiling. It is a roofless house. So where are the logistics? So, and I'll keep on saying this, an effective, competent, responsive military needs an oversight set of institutions that understands what the military does, learns to listen and engage in a critical manner so that the public services that we expect will happen. Finally, I think there's the need for a balance between, this has always been a contention and a difficult decision. What is the balance between the military expenditure and development? So Mr. Poku has spoken about how the military can play a developmental role. But we need a communication narrative around this. Because with social media, what people will only say is that, oh, but the military has got so much. But of course, there's a role to play in the developmental sense. And most of our military friends will tell me, don't talk about kinetic. Always also talk about the non-kinetic side. So I want to thank you very much for this afternoon's chance, and I look forward to a robust conversation. Thank
you. Wow. I think we can put our hands together. Wow. Professor Kwesi Enin, wonderful. We are still live here at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. This is the Republic Day lecture. We have our final review lecturer. There have been many traps set for you. You are an excellency, so you have to be careful what you say. And you are also from ECOWAS, and they've been raising ECOWAS a lot. So as for me, I'll just be praying for you. Because, and you are going to be live on air until 4:30. So you need the guys at the top to be praying very hard. So let me tell you quickly who she is. Her Excellency Josephine Nkrumah has been the resident rep of the President of the ECOWAS Commission in Liberia, of all places, since March 2022. Of course, prior to this, she served as the Executive Chair of the Ghana National Commission on Civic Education, which mandate, among other things, to educate Ghanaians on their civic rights and responsibilities and inculcate the values of democracy in all Ghanaians. She has studied in many areas. Doctor of Laws, University of Liberia, LLM from International Maritime Law Institute, Malta. Of course, called to the bar in Ghana as well, 1997. From the University of Ghana, where she obtained a Bachelor degree in Law and French. And of course, being a consummate lawyer for close to 3 decades. In her current position, she supported Liberia's growing democracy, where she plays a pivotal role in the country's recent elections. She liaises extensively with both national and international partners on many issues, including governance, security, climate change, poverty alleviation, and inclusive peace building. Her Excellency Josephine Nkrumah is our final review lecturer. Please put your hands together for her, for that role. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Like previous speakers, permit me to stand on existing protocols to ensure that I remain safe in not bumbling up with the names and, the order of how protocols must go. Bernard says he's praying for me. Bernard, yours is only prayer. Me, I've been fasting and praying since I was called to come and speak. I said to myself, you have security experts here. What am I coming to do here? But I've listened to our previous speakers, and I hope that by the time I'm done with my review as well, it will put my perspectives, will also enrich the conversation. So I'd first like to thank Mr. Poku for his presentation and for speaking so frankly. As for my brother, Professor Enin, I know he's brutally frank, and so I wasn't expecting anything less from him. I'd also like to state that in some of these conversations, it's important that we begin to bring into the audience our young people. Our youth representatives must be here, because the conversations we have really touch on their future and, in fact, the now and how they fit and understand the role they have to play. And in that regard, I pulled my own children here today, telling them it was a very important conversation and for them to listen and hear so that they can begin to fashion their mindset on the importance of security, the importance of the military. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to open my conversation with a quote from Abraham Lincoln, as inscribed on the walls of the National Defense University in Washington, D.C. It states, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country." Whilst this was said many years ago in the context of the United States of America, I believe that it echoes very much with us. Of course, we have had 30 plus years of stability after the rebirth of our democracy in 1992. And we must not at all be complacent in thinking that those quiet years shall remain so. Indeed, the present circumstances, not only in our country, but in the sub-region and Africa, as well as the world as a whole, have a bearing on security. And we must rise to that occasion in ensuring that our frontiers and our security, both internal and external, are properly and effectively governed for our collective safety. Today's lecture, of course, brings into sharp focus the concept of civil-military relations, particularly in current times of the essence of human security, which goes beyond the traditional concept of security, guardians of our nation's sovereignty. In light of our checkered past, as has been amply demonstrated by Mr. Opoku, of our democratic rule interspersed with military control, and within the context of a resurgence of coups in the sub-region, the subject matter could not be more relevant. Even so, from the quote, our past is not adequate to approaching civil-military relations as we have done traditionally, where the military were largely tasked with the defense of our sovereignty and external threats based on a historical colonial interest. Mr. Poku alludes to our national security strategy, and I state its mission as follows. Our mission is to adopt a whole of government and whole of society approach and adopt a blend of human security and traditional security to guarantee national security and stability by promoting tolerance, national cohesion, and unity of purpose so as to facilitate sustainable development, prosperity, and well-being in cooperation with partners of regional, continental, and global levels. It tells us, therefore, that our national security strategy is forward-looking. It sees security beyond the context of what we consider security that largely focuses perhaps the role of the military as guardians of our sovereignty, and also the role of our allied security agencies when it comes to internal security. Today, security is seen within the dimensions of the pillars of human security. The guiding principles of the national security strategy also include principles such as a people-centered security, good governance and cohesion, inclusive approach, prevention through preemptive action to curtail threats and build resilience, respect for human rights and rule of law, and gender mainstreaming. Mindful of the growing global megatrends, as well as emergence of new security threats such as terrorism and violent extremism, organized crime, armed conflict, maritime and cyber insecurity, rendering accountable security services to citizens to address these threats demands a whole of government and a whole of society approach. As stated by the lecturer, democratic oversight of the military puts the power to take military decisions in the hands of civil authority. This is amply demonstrated in our Constitution, again reference to the lead lecturer's comments. It is reinforced by the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance, which states that the armed forces and security agencies are under the authority of legally constituted civil authorities. As Ghana is a member state of ECOWAS, military is not bound only by its national commitments, but also by the regional protocols to this subordination. A lot has been said about the role of ECOWAS, and let me first state that I don't speak here in my capacity as a resident representative of ECOWAS. However, I think it's important for us to state that ECOWAS is made up of heads of states who make decisions for and on behalf of the ECOWAS Commission to implement. And so, they determine the role and trajectory of ECOWAS. So whilst we talk about ECOWAS, perhaps this is the time where we should be asking the hard questions of our sub-regional leadership. Because we speak of ECOWAS as if it is a separate organ from the sub-region. But ECOWAS is all of us, led by the leaders of the respective countries. And therefore, when we criticize the role of ECOWAS, we should all be looking at the leadership of the various heads of authority that make up that institution. And I don't think I'll say anything further on ECOWAS. Continue to pray for me, Bernard. Okay. Nurturing security sector governance, and when I speak of security sector governance, in this context, I refer also to the military, because the military plays a critical role in security sector governance. It requires democratically elected leaders determining strategic direction of the security sector, whose actors derive their authority from their subordination to elected leadership. And so within the concept of human security and under the pillars of population, rule of law and governance, security, economics and politics, the military have a key role to play. In light of mega trends such as changing demographics, urbanization, climate change, economic power shifts in the global space, resource stress, public debt, enabling technology, and economic interconnectedness, as well as democratic backsliding, the vulnerabilities and risks of Ghana must define the role and scope of the military as a key actor within the architecture of security governance in order to sustain our democracy. In this regard, the strategic direction of security governance and our national security strategy must envisage the role of the military to new external threats as well as internal threats that require an interagency approach. The internal threats have been again demonstrated by previous speakers. Our own perceptions of corruption, backsliding of democracy in Ghana, environmental degradation, amongst other things, a youth bulge. Currently, Ghana has 57% of its population.
Is your essay ready? Have you already submitted it? In 2024, who will be crowned the new champion? We're getting closer and closer to the deadline for submission. As a JHS student, don't miss out on the opportunity to win a whopping 10,000 Ghana cedis and an entire year of bragging rights for being the very best JHS student in Ghana. Additionally, you get to have your voice and thoughts heard nationwide as you contribute to national discourse. Here's how to join the Literacy Challenge 2024. In not less than 600 words, write about the role of the youth in shaping the future of Ghana. What changes would you like to see, and how can young people contribute to making them happen? Script must be in your own handwriting. Script must be endorsed by a parent. Add your full contact details. Deadline Saturday the 13th of July 2024. Submit entries to the front desk of ChannelOne TV in Tesano or 97.3 City FM in Adabraka, or send it to PO Box GP 14123 Accra Central. For inquiries, call 0205 973 973. The Literacy Challenge 2024 is powered by City FM, supported by ChannelOne TV, and is sponsored by Ghana National Gas Company, Alive Soap. Feel fresh, feel alive. From the house of Wilma Africa Limited. Fortune spread for bread. Yummy, delicious, always on point. Another quality product from Wilma Africa Limited. Ruby Biscuits by M4 Foods and Perspectus Ghana Limited.
ready for the splash of a lifetime. The ChannelOne TV National Swimming Championship is here. On the 13th and 14th of July 2024, witness the ultimate test of tenacity and endurance, where teamwork and camaraderie meet the thrill of competition. Join us at the world-class Bortaman Sports Complex at 9 a.m. Be part of the excitement as swimmers from across the nation compete for glory. Powered by ChannelOne TV in partnership with 97.3 City FM and the Swimming Association. Don't miss out on the action. The ChannelOne TV National Swimming Championship, where champions are made. See you there. The date again is the 13th and the 14th of July 2024. The venue is the brand new world-class Bortaman Sports Complex and the time is 9 a.m. each day. For inquiries, kindly call 0558 973 973. The ChannelOne TV National Swimming Championship. Dive into greatness.